The dilemma between life and death of human beings has been a cause of controversy throughout the history of humanity, manifesting divided positions between scientific, psychological, historical, religious, and philosophical approaches. When we think of a terminal patient who has decided to end his life because he's suffering a big amount of pain, do we consider that his decision has the same morality than a girl who decides to abort because of a rape? And what if that girl was your sister and it's up to you to decide if the rapist deserves to live or die? Would you think the same if the victim of these situations were yourself? Very difficult, right? Abortion, euthanasia, and death penalty are three topics that involve severe moral issues. That is because when these topics are discussed, the arguments are highly emotional and rarely rational. For example, when we're talking about abortion, it's especially complicated because we're talking about two human beings. And most of the abortion debates hinge on whether you think if the fetus is a person or not.
When we talk about abortion, it remains a long topic with many different arguments. First, abortion is defined as the termination of pregnancy. The central legal aspect of the abortion conflict is whether a fetus has a basic legal right to live, or at least a claim to live. Nowadays, there are two claims. Most people believe that a fetus is not a human being, and others think that a fetus is a human. Now, considering those who maintain that a fetus, regardless of its pregnancy period, is a person, another moral dilemma will be to ask, if the baby comes with a congenital disease, or if the mother cannot have the child, and you know that a fetus will become a suffering child, if you allow the child to live anyway, are you in some way responsible for the child suffering? Or perhaps the child will grow up grateful for having had the opportunity to live even with a disability. Therefore, it is not part of our moral job to judge if they should live or not. Additionally, with the idea that a fetus is a human being, a human person has rights to live and liberty, the right not to be harmed, and the right to be free to pursue one's own way of life as long as it doesn't interfere with the liberty of others. The right to life includes the right to not be murdered. Donald Marquis discussed in his article the morality of abortion and the deprivation of fetus, since the reason that is sufficient to explain why it is wrong to kill human beings after the time of birth is a reason that also applies to fetuses. It allows that abortion is a prima facie seriously wrong. In other words, the mother cannot decide for the fetus because the fetus has life and therefore rights.
For philosophers, being a person is a technical matter, since human is a biological term, not the same as person, which is a moral term. Personhood comes with moral status or moral considerations. We are persons, but what else is a person? Is it possible to be a human and not yet a person? The American philosopher Mary Ann Warren offers 5 criteria that, according to her, constitute personality: consciousness, reasoning, self-motivated activity, capacity to communicate, and self-awareness. These factors are known as cognitive criteria. According to Warren, some humans are not persons, either not yet or not anymore, as is the cases of fetuses and permanent vegetative state patients. Even humans can relinquish their personhood through completely inhuman actions, like rape or cold-blood murder. In this view, you can surrender your own personhood by committing inhuman actions, and that is how some persons justify the death penalty.
I swear to say the truth and only the truth. Hi everyone, I'm here to speak on death penalty. I believe it's a very unhuman kind of punishment, especially for innocent cases. Marion bought 3 horses from his friend Cameron. Sometime later, a body was found with 3 shots in his pool and the guy and his clothes look like Cameron. The investigations went around Marion. He was tried, convicted, and hanged. 4 years later, Cameron was found alive in Nebraska. He was in Mexico, hiding from a woman he had a child with. My reflection for us here today is, if you don't know someone is guilty or innocent, you have a moral obligation of not killing that person. I'm totally pro death penalty, and I'll tell you why. I think it's so funny. People are actually defending and saying, no, we should protect his life. But we're not concerned with the victim at all. I believe for the good of society, for the good of everyone, the criminal should be responsible and pay with his life. I believe that detention and reformative justice would be more beneficial for everybody than the death of that criminal.
Another thing is the family. Where is the justice for the family? How is this family moving on? They're gonna keep living in fear? That's not right.
Morally, I'm definitely using virtue ethics for my approach because first here, you have the law of reciprocity. If someone killed, needs to be killed. Second, we have the law of harm. It's harming someone for sure. And third, it's involving someone else that is not the victim. It's a third person, a guard or whoever is to execute the life of this person. A study in Brazil carried out in different prisons showed that 70% of people come back to the prison after a while. But there's a specific location in Brazil, Louisiana prison, that has a humanistic kind of project, and that was a project of biblical study, mental health, distribution of essential items. And in the year of 2021, there was no people coming back to jail at all.
I believe in the situation we should use the utilitarian approach because the majorities need to be safe.
And what about the people who claim the right to decide on their own lives? Perhaps a person with disabilities or someone who experiences a lot of pain does not want to continue with his life as it is. Proponents of the Death with Dignity movement find value in concepts like personal liberty, which claims that everybody should be free to make decisions about their own lives and death.
Euthanasia. But first of all, what is euthanasia? It is known as the painless killing of a patient suffering from an incurable and painful disease, or a patient that is in a permanent coma. This practice is legal in most countries. In the United States, for example, PIS is legal just in Washington, Oregon, California, Colorado, Montana, Vermont, Washington, D.C., and Hawaii. Outside of the United States, PIS is legal just in Switzerland, Germany, and Japan. On the other hand, euthanasia, including PIS, it's legal in several countries, including the Netherlands, Belgium, Luxembourg, Colombia, and Canada. However, should euthanasia remain as an illegal practice? When most people think of euthanasia, they think of a doctor directly ending someone's life, but it's just not that simple. We have two types of euthanasia. We have active euthanasia, that is purposely giving someone a lethal dose of a drug in order to end the patient's suffering. But we also have passive euthanasia, that is described as withholding or limiting life-sustaining treatments so that a person passes more quickly. We also have two cases of euthanasia. We have voluntary and involuntary. If someone, for example, is suffering and makes a conscious decision to seek help with ending their life, this is considered as voluntary euthanasia. However, the person must give their full consent and demonstrate that they fully understand what will happen. On the other hand, non-voluntary euthanasia involves someone else making the decision to end someone's life. This decision is usually made by a close family member. This is generally done when someone is completely unconscious and permanently incapacitated. It usually involves passive euthanasia, such as withdrawing life support from someone who's showing no signs of brain activity. However, once again, the question that was said at the beginning, should euthanasia remain as an illegal practice? Euthanasia is considered illegal in most of the countries, but there are just some cases where people are just suffering. They are in constant pain and they cannot do something about it. Doctors cannot relieve their pain. In these cases, euthanasia is the best option to help patients, to end people's suffering. However, most of the times, euthanasia is considered as something immoral to do.
Because all of this, it is very difficult to discuss these controversial issues. And that is why, in most of the cases, they are spoken from a position of moral relativism, where the truth of moral judgment is not absolute but relative to the moral standard of a person or a group of persons.